I'll do, and welcome to the fifth and final chat of today's selection of Loose Lips. This is the second series. Yeah, we've reached series number 2. So if anybody's looking to get involved with the first series, what you need to do is go onto YouTube and put in Pop Cult Chic, and you can see all the back catalogue of series 1. Or likewise on Instagram, you can have a look at pop.cult.chic, and all our back catalogue is on there. Lanre Bakare. I wonder if I pronounced it right. It's the surname I'm worrying about, but he's in the group. So if you send me the request, brother, and then as soon as you come through, and then I'll be able to accept. He's done that, so let's rock away.
Hey,
Hello?
can you see me? Hang on a second.
No.
Let's have a look.
I even answered like it were a call then. You know, like a withheld number. I was like, hello? I didn't know what was happening.
Yeah, I just had the camera going the wrong way around, so that's a good start. Yeah, I'm all right. How are you?
I'm good, brother. I'm good. I like it. Was more for the impact. I bet it was like, now they don't see me, and like the big reveal.
Exactly. And now they've got this, which is incredibly disappointing, but it's happening.
I see what you did. Good form, brother. So, is it Lanre, and how do I pronounce your surname?
Bakare,
But I did get it right. I'll take that. Fair. And which bit of Bradford are you from?
Shipley.
Fair. So, what school am I?
Went to High Craigs First School, great place. Then went to Wood End Middle School, and then finished at Salts.
All right.
Yeah. What about you?
I went St Mary's, which you probably won't even know. We're near Cathedral, and then
Right.
St George's, which was opposite Peel Park. Went there for a year, and then
Right.
usually everyone would go St Bede's or St Joseph, so Yorkshire Martyrs from there. But I went to Dixon CTC.
Oh my God! Yeah, of course you did. Yeah, I know a few people who went there and stuff. Like, do you know Kwame?
Yeah, of course, man. Yeah, I've got a lot of time for him.
Yeah, he's a good guy. Yeah, he's like part of because we're both Nigerians, so like we grew up in there's like a little Nigerian community in Bradford and stuff, and we grew up together, and yeah, Bradford's funny, man. I miss it.
He's into his politics a lot as well.
Yeah, he's into you know what he's into like posting kind of like Noam Chomsky quotes on Twitter and then annoying people. That's what he's into. But God bless him. Like the most like left wing take you could possibly have on anything. Like, great. Nothing wrong with that.
So when did you sort of get your passion for journalism?
Journalism. I mean, I was like writing even when I was a little kid and stuff. In first school, I used to like write little stories and stuff. And like when I was at my grandma and granddad's house. But then journalism proper. I don't know. I suppose when I was like 12 or 13, something like that, started reading like Tom Wolfe. You know that guy, the American
Yeah.
like long form guy. Got like a little book of his stuff and started thinking, this is amazing. Like there's an incredible interview with Muhammad Ali when he hangs out with him, and it's written in that kind of. It was like the new journalism form, so it's kind of fiction techniques used in non-fiction. So it's really kind of overwritten. Like some of it now is completely insane. Like you go back and read it, and it's like, hey, look at this hip cat. It's like really like of its time. But I started reading that. I thought this is cool. I wouldn't mind doing this. I was never kind of that into news reporting. That wasn't like the thing. I wasn't never that bothered about like uncovering things. But the idea of talking to people and interviewing people was always really, really appealed. And that was the kind of thing I was kind of into.
Did you feel at that age there was a opportunity or like a direction to be able to be following into it?
You know what? I wasn't thinking about it then. I was pretty naive about journalism. I didn't really understand like how kind of elitist it is. I had no idea as a 12 and 13-year-old. You know, going to school in at Salts and stuff. You just think I'm just going to do that because I like it. Why not give it a go? It wasn't until I got to like say 15 or 16 and I went and did work experience at the Wharfdale Gazette in Ilkley.
Right.
And it was like, whoa, proper local paper, like going out with a photographer and literally going out to do stories about cats trapped up trees and stuff like that.
Have you been watching Afterlife on Netflix?
No, was it the Gervais thing?
Yeah. So he works in a local paper, newspaper. I was just going to ask if it had any like resemblance to where you were working.
Yeah, I've not seen that, but I mean, if it's the thing about it is obviously, like local papers, there's loads of different diversity in terms of what people do and stuff. But there are some kind of classic tropes that all my mates who went and did work experience, they all have the same thing. Kind of getting sent out. Remember this photographer? He was just like so bitter, and like we went out and I was just trying to make small talk with him. I was like, "Oh, do you support a football team?" And he said stuff like, "Oh, I support my legs, and they support my body." That kind of like old boy, like shut up. Like,
Yeah.
wow, you really hate your life. So that made me like think of like, do I really want to get into this? And then from like 15 or 16, I started thinking maybe about doing something else. And, I was doing media studies at school and doing fairly well and making little films. So I was like, maybe I'll do that. And it wasn't until I got to university that I started kind of going back towards journalism and thinking, I'll go back to that kind of Tom Wolfe stuff that I really like. Like, that's what I want to do. That's the stuff I'll kind of try to pursue, not like stories about people trapped in, cats trapped in trees and stuff. I don't really want to do that.
Which uni did you go to?
Liverpool.
Okay. I bet that had a good culture for it as well.
Yeah, like when I was at Liverpool, I did little bits and pieces for the student paper. But it wasn't really until Sheffield Uni where I did my postgrad. That's where I did my journalism studies because I did English at Liverpool. But Sheffield was when I properly got into it because at that point I was doing an actual course, like an actual masters on it. So that was pretty full on. But Liverpool was good, but back then I was, I was going out a bit too much and stuff.
Just uni, just enjoying uni.
Exactly.
And
yeah.
the city of Liverpool, it's wild. It's got a vibe, that city.
Oh, it's class. Like we used to go to Chibuku, which was like it was a really good night. It was at this old theatre on Seal Street, and you had the main room was like this kind of amphitheatre thing, which used to be an actual old theatre, and the DJs would play down in the middle, and upstairs was kind of a smaller room, and that theatre, when it kicked off, it was just absolutely unbelievable. Scousers go mental. And the atmosphere and stuff was incredible. And that was the kind of thing you get through the city. Like, people were just so kind of friendly and warm. I'm like so Bradfordians or whatever, but there's kind of like, what is it? I don't know if it's more like optimism or something, but there's just like a different vibe in Liverpool. Scousers they're just different.
I find that, like, Bradford, it's like, you're going to say you do it, so you better do it. And then when you do it, it's like, respect, you did it. But up until that point, it's like, we said it, how's it going to be? Which I love because it fuels you. I find that Manchester's very, like, standoffish until you prove yourself and then they take you in. But I think Liverpool is the other way. Liverpool's like, everyone's sound until you fuck up and then we'll have up to do with you. And that's what Liverpool are. They'll treat you as your bestie, or they'll just let you in until you do something, and then they're like, "Nah, we don't like that." Look at the way they band together against the Sun, and like they're their own breed.
Yeah, it's mad that actually. I remember when when I was at uni there, I played for the footy team, and we used to, when we go play away, you'd get a coach from the bottom of Smithdown Road, which is where the students live. And at the bottom of Smithdown Road, there's a massive like mural which says "Don't buy the Sun." It's like a front page, but they've done it, and it's like for a reason for Hillsborough, obviously. And I remember a lot of the lads were from down south, and they didn't know about that. And I remember going on a away trip, and someone had brought a copy of the Sun, and they tried to get on the coach, and one of the Scouse lads was like, "You're not reading that," and just like chucked it out and stuff. So yeah, I think it as well. It's because like you're at the end of the M62, and it's like you are divided. Like you are. It's like a separate little bit of the UK. Like there's that kind of Scouse not English thing, which is a bit weird, but I don't really buy into that. But like there is something about it. Like you get there, the fashion's so different. Like people just look they're not mental. Sorry, they look completely different. And like I remember going out the first couple of nights out, and people wearing like full tracksuits, going to the shop, and there'd be lasses walking out there with like rollers on and the pajamas. Yeah. Just like, whoa, you lot are on another level. So, but I love that. I think they're great.
I hear you, man. I hear you. So, when you've always had this passion for writing, have you ever like gone back over any of your old stuff when you were at school and like looked at it and how do you rank it now? Like,
you know what? I've got a little portfolio that I put together before I got this thing called the Scott Trust Bursary, which is through the Guardian. And before getting that, you had to put together a little portfolio, and it's downstairs. And I've not looked at it in a long time because, early on, like some of the writing, like I was just so like cliched and like terrible. Like it's really, really quite bad. And you need to be in an environment where you're having it kind of beaten out of you. Because I was good. I was always like decent in terms of academia, and I do well at university. But the way you write there is kind of like it's terrible style for journalism. You don't do that. Like it's so kind of overwritten. there's all these clauses you don't need. You don't write in the active voice. You write in the passive voice. So you have to kind of. It took years to get that completely beaten out of me. So my early stuff is like, oh, there's a couple of pieces even on the Guardian website which oh man, yeah, even the thought of them is like, oh man, terrible.
But I love how you describe like the different levels really they are to writing, and the different nuances that people may not understand, like, or realize that there's an actual like tradition steeped in writing really. Like, was that something that again uni opened up to you, or was that more on the job when and what was your sort of your early steps into business, into the careers?
Into the career. So in terms of like the culture, because journalism does have this kind of incredible history and culture in this country, and it's really different. When I was in America, that's completely different culture, but in the UK, it's like it's very strange. Like there'll be terminology and things that crop up which you've just never heard anywhere else, and there's little traditions that you don't know about until you're within the kind of fraternity of being a journalist. So like, for example, our deputy editor, well, ex-deputy editor, he left, this guy called Paul Johnson. He'd been there for like 40 years or something daft. And when you've been there that long, when you're leaving, you get this something called getting knocked out. So what they used to do is get the old like printing blocks and stuff and like bang them on the desk. It's really weird. I don't know why it started, but people do it. And when he was walking out, he kind of walked from the editor's office and walked all the way through the office and then out. And you just had, everybody was doing it. And it was insane. It was completely bananas. And it's quite emotional when it happens, really it's kind of like a kind of primal thing of like just banging stuff on desks. But there's something about it which is, it's just so unique to journalism, and it's this kind of like fraternity that you're in, and kind of only the little weird rules. And similarly, like when you leave as well, you get like a front page where your colleagues create a front page for you. And I've not left the job yet, but when I got married, some of my colleagues at work made a front page for us because we were moving to New York. And that's amazing. That's one of my favorite things I've got. So yeah, that's really cool. And then first steps into it, where it was through the Scott Trust Bursary. Really, I was doing like freelance stuff and writing for free mags. Like, do you remember Sandman?
No.
Remember that was the first magazine that the Arctic Monkeys were in, and it was like a free zine that was in Sheffield, Leeds, somewhere else. It was like a Yorkshire thing.
Okay, and like, so had all the different gigs and stuff in it.
Yeah, so it was like a black and white thing. It was cool actually. I think I've got some issues knocking around somewhere, because it was like when Leeds was like it was like the whole New Yorkshire thing, and
yeah,
it was like Forward Russia, and there's some of the people who've come out of that have gone on and had incredible careers and stuff. Like the drummer from Metronomy was in a band called the Ivories.
Oh really?
I remember got to see them loads. Yeah, they were decent actually.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So it was like stuff like that, and the Cribs, and yeah, it was good. So I started writing for them, and then I moved to Newcastle after Liverpool, so before Sheffield, and I wrote for a magazine up there called Narc, and they were really good to me. They like let me do loads of stuff and interviewed loads of people, and that was good. So that was my first kind of proper experience. So it was always writing about music, and then I applied for the Scott Trust Bursary when I was living in Newcastle. This is a thing which is given to 6 people every year. It's supposed to be aimed at people from working class or minority ethnic backgrounds. And the idea is that you kind of try to redress the fact that journalism isn't that kind of diverse in loads of different ways. And I got that, and that just completely changed everything. That was amazing. I couldn't believe it. I was working in Newcastle at the time as a debt collector for Npower, just on the phone. But it was just like one of those jobs where I'd finished uni, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And I was like, oh, my mate lived in Newcastle, I'll go up and live there. And I ended up just doing this random job. And my mum sent me the advert for it, said you should apply for this, and I did, and I got it. So yeah.
Respect. That must have been a proud moment as well. What did you have to do to apply for it? Did you have to write anything for it?
Yeah, I think you had to write, I think it was like a 250-word story or something. And then it was a lot of questions about your life, because I think they were trying to like basically weed out people who actually weren't from the backgrounds that they were trying to attack, because yeah, people will try it on. But yeah, it was a mad experience. It was cool. It was cool.
And then, so was that affiliated with The Guardian at that point?
Yeah, so it's part of, The Guardian's got a charitable arm, and it's part of the Guardian Foundation, it's called. So they looked after you and kind of brought you in. As part of it, you had 2 lots of work experience, one at Easter and one at Christmas, and you could be on like various desks within The Guardian, The Observer then. and they also paid for my masters, and they give you a subsistence allowance. So it was amazing. Like it just complete because I wouldn't have been able to do that unless I got the Scott Trust Bursary. So yeah, that was class. That was like 2007, 2008.
Did that almost act as a bit of an apprenticeship as well in you working your way through the Guardian because they already, knew what you were about by having you on that foundation?
Yeah, well, it means that you're in the building, so you can kind of walk around. And I was pretty kind of cocky with it. I was like, "Oh, Scott Trust Bursary, like, what's up?" Reality is like, quite a lot of people don't, even within the organisation, don't really know what it is. So, like, some people were just like, "Well, what's that?" But it was key. It was really key because I always tell, like, if I'm talking to students and stuff and they want to know like bits of advice, I always say like those contacts that you make on work experience are absolutely vital. Like, I remember going in that year, and we had a day when we went in and met editors, and went in, and the editor of G2, who was then Catherine Viner, who's actually the editor now, she was there that day, and she gave a little presentation. At the end of it, I was like, right, I'm going to ask some questions, so I did. I was like, how do you make a newspaper? It's just something completely different. And she was like, oh, what's going on here? Because she's from Ripon, so she was like, oh, you've got like a Yorkshire accent. What's going on there? So I had a word with her there. Got me on work experience at G2 later. And then when I finally applied for a job at The Guardian, she was the person who said yes. So like that, having that little connection, it might have made a difference in the interview process. You don't know. So like I always tell like students and stuff, be really positive on your work experience, bug people, get in their face, because you never know when those connections are going to pay off.
How then do you develop your own style, and how would you describe your writing style?
Just irreverent and childish, probably. Like not in news copy, because that's just like straight. You just kind of play it straight and try to like insert a few little things in there, but you can't really do that because it's news. So that's pretty serious. But like in terms of features and blogs and stuff, I think when I first started, I was really influenced by like Vice, like early Vice magazine when it was still a mag. I was just like, what is this, man? Like reading the do's and don'ts stuff. I was just like, this is hilarious.
Have you ever seen Nathan Barley? A show called Nathan Barley?
Yeah, of course, yeah. Charlie Brooker.
Do you think Sugar Rape is Vice?
It was based on it. I did work experience at Vice, and I asked them when I went in, and they were like, yeah, well, they came in. This might be kind of rubbish because the guy who told me this has since been fired, but he said they came in for like a week and stuff. Like some of I don't know if it was Charlie Brooker or like Chris Morris, but they went in and like hung around when it first started, because obviously it kind of made a splash when it first landed. It was like, what's this ridiculous magazine? But I'm pretty sure it was based on that. And tell you what, when I did work experience there, I had a few like kind of Sugar Rape style moments. I remember I was sat there, and the editor at the time, who I won't name, had just got a BlackBerry delivered. And I think he'd been out the night before, and he was having a bit of a bad time. This guy was kind of muttering to himself and stuff. And he sat at this desk, and he gets his BlackBerry, and he's getting it out, and he's kind of like messing around with it, and he's going all over the place, and his SIM card kind of popped out. So I was sat kind of facing a wall there, and he sat behind me, so I couldn't see him. Next thing I know, this like BlackBerry just smashes against the wall, and he's like, "Get in here to find my SIM card, mate." And I was just sat there like, "Whoa, what is wrong with you, mate?" And they ended up forcing like the receptionist to find the SIM. It was pretty weird. It was ultimately it was good because of the connections I made, but like it was pretty full on place.
That's mad. But like you were saying then, so you were reading a lot of those magazines at that time?
Yeah, Vice, I really like that. I mean, some of it is ridiculous, but I like the Pransall column. I don't know if you remember that. It was like about grime. And I know the guy who wrote it, like I stay in touch with him, is a guy called John, and he's a pretty funny dude. But I just thought it was like that kind of satirical, irreverent, like slightly childish actually at the start. But yeah, Vice was big. Obviously, I read The Guardian for my serious stuff. Like I loved Media Guardian. I thought that was class. Charlie Brooker's column every Monday, definitely. The Guide every Saturday, he was in that. Grace Dent was in there. You know, Stuart Heritage, writers like that who were funny and have a good kind of turn of phrase. Simon Hattonstone's interviews I always thought were absolutely amazing. Decca Aitkenhead as well. She's really good. There were just loads of good people knocking around in British media then.
What is it that stands them out, and especially like when you're coming up in the game? Is it the way that they're able to authenticate their voice and put it across in written form?
Yeah, you definitely know when someone comes along, and when you start properly reading, and you're reading a lot of read a lot of journalism. When someone comes along and they've got a voice that is different, it stands out like by a million miles. I remember reading a guy, John Jeremiah Sullivan, who is an American like magazine writer. Used to be on GQ and stuff, and he did this piece. What was it? It was Axl Rose, right? So he's supposed to go and interview Axl Rose. This is when he's like big and fat and he's having a nightmare. It's like beginning of the noughties, right? He don't want to do any press. So he refused to do this interview. But the piece was about him going to Alabama, where Axl Rose is from. I think it's Alabama. It might be somewhere else, but it's in the South anyway. And he basically goes and does a write around where you don't. That means you don't interview the subject, but you interview people around him and like his circle and find out about him. And it's just unbelievable. Like it's just such an amazing piece, and like you can't put it down. And those pieces, those writers are fairly rare. And when you find one, it's like yes, like Charlie Brooker was like that. It was like every Monday, this guy's funny. Like I'm having it. He's gonna rip into like Jeremy Kyle or whatever. And some of his descriptions are, to this day, like completely sum up a certain TV show, a certain genre. Like he does it in like 3 or 4 sentences, and that's really rare. There aren't that many people who can do that.
Do you think, looking at Charlie Brooker and someone like that, could you see the potential of going into script-based TV shows?
I don't know. I listened to a podcast the other day. This guy called Cord Jefferson, who he writes for like The Good Place, and he wrote part of Watchmen and stuff like that. And he used to be a journalist. He's pretty funny actually. I met him when I was in New York, and he's a mixed race guy, and he's about half a foot taller than me. And I remember him coming to like a Guardian party, and it was like, who's that better looking version of me over there? And like he's just completely murked it. He's totally made that jump. And when I was in Los Angeles, I interviewed the guys who wrote Atlanta. Yeah. And I was talking to them, and like I went around to they had like a little house and stuff or apartment, and I went around to interview them, and they were like, "Yeah, you know what? This seems like the kind of thing I could see me doing this." Like from what we're having these little conversations about all little incidents in our lives, and it was like that's the kind of thing that plays into the show. So it's definitely something I've considered, but I mean it's such a specific skill. I don't know if you could just you can't just do it like that. But yeah, maybe one day. I've definitely got a couple of ideas for some screenplays, but I'll have to keep them under my hat.
So when you say a couple of writers from Atlanta, do you mean Donald Glover?
Not Donald Glover, so his brother Stephen.
And does he play Paperboy?
No. I've interviewed that guy. He's called Brian Tyree Henry. Yeah. He's a funny
cousin guy. Then
Donald Glover's cousin.
Yeah, I'm sure. Like that's what I thought. I thought it was Donald Glover and his cousin who wrote it.
No, it's Donald Glover, obviously, your boy, and then it's Stephen Glover, who's his younger brother, who looks nearly exactly the same as him, but a little bit smaller. A guy called Jamal, and then Stephanie Robinson is the other writer. She's a really, really great writer who's been on loads of different stuff. So I went round to their house. So it was them three, and that was funny, man. We're having a good chat. That's one of those days where you do it and you're thinking, I can't believe I get paid to do this. This is amazing.
So when you were out in New York, was that one of the jobs where you got sent to do? And was that out in New York for The Guardian as well? Yeah, so I went over there in 2014. When I went and did that job, that was when I moved to LA. That was in 2016. So I moved out there. So I was in New York for 2 years, LA for 1 year, then I came back. Had too much fun, so they were like, get back over here. Get back to Bradford. Yeah. Like, why is that guy from Bradford in LA? Get him back. But yeah, New York was just sick. It was just it's just a ridiculous city. Like the energy is unbelievable. So much stuff going on. Like this time of year when it stops being freezing cold and the sun comes out, it just completely changes everything. I just completely loved it. It was like being in a film every day. Well, you would have been out there then, as you would have seen the rise of Trump in American politics, but also the term fake news. So from somebody who's involved in the industry, how has that impacted journalists with these terms that can be thrown at you so easy?
I mean, it's funny because when I first started at Guardian, I was actually I worked as a comment moderator, which was an insane job. And like some of the stuff people would say, like that kind of sentiment of, oh, you're just making it up, it's fake, has always been there. That's always existed. Like you go back and look at the letters page back in the day in the Times or whatever, 100 years ago, and you would have found that kind of sentiment. But it's just like everything, it's exaggerated. And when you've got the President of the United States spitting out, obviously it legitimizes it in a massive way. So it's pretty dangerous. I mean, you look at now, I know there was that poll out the other week, wasn't there, about like the public's trust in journalism. And I think The Guardian was at the top of that list, which is great. But it only was like 39% or something. So the majority of people don't trust us as a news source, which is scary. And I suppose you're always going to have a bit of that element when we live in a society which is so polarised and there's so many different kind of views and points. You're always going to get people pushing them back against the thing they don't believe in. But in America, I don't know, it's slightly different. Like the news out there was just so bananas. Like, I remember who was it, man? I think it might be the Michael Brown. No, it was Eric Garner when he was killed by that police officer, and the officer wasn't indicted. And I remember that night I was like, right, I'll just go home and watch the news. Obviously, it's super depressing. I put the news on. I was like, oh, I'll see what's going on Fox. Put it on Fox, and it's just like 5 guys going basically he deserved it, and you're like, whoa, that guy was murdered, fam. Like, what are you talking about? Like, what is going on? So over there, I just think it's kind of like everything. It's exaggerated. It's kind of blown up. It's more like just entertainment, man. You've got to entertain everybody. Everyone's got to have a take. So yeah, I don't know. I think we've got to be careful because it's easy to kind of roll your eyes and go whatever. Like, yeah, fake news. Yeah, it doesn't really matter, but it does because once that trust is eroded, it's hard to win it back. But yeah. I don't know. Scary times.
Do you find as well then that because there's so much news out there, it's almost like it's overkill at certain points? So how do brands like The Guardian and then personal, like your own self as well? How do you all keep to your integrity within like not just your own personal style, but the papers as well?
Yeah, I mean, I've got no integrity, so it's fine. I'll just take bribes and that. No, I'm joking. Yeah, I suppose with The Guardian, it's like setting certain standards that you don't let slip. Being rigorous with your fact checking, making sure that you're trying to remain impartial, that you're not being swayed by certain elements. Like I don't know if you've ever had any run-ins with PRs and stuff, but they're going to try it on. They're going to try and like smooth talk you, whatever, and you just got to know when to kind of push back on that and not be involved in that and stay above it, because taking something that might seem like a very small thing could, totally mean that people can't trust what you do. And once that trust is eroded, then you're really in trouble. So, I mean, personally, I just make sure that I'm trying to be impartial, that I'm trying to kind of read as much around a subject as I can, and that I'm trying to be fair. Even when I'm interviewing someone, if they're saying something that's potentially, inflammatory, I always try to make sure I go back and say, you just said this. What do you think about that? Like, is that what you mean? Is that what you really mean? Try to do someone a favour, and if they say it again, then great. If they want to change their mind, then they want to change their mind.
What about when you're interviewing or speaking with somebody who has completely opposing views to you, but you still have to report it in like you say, a fair way? How does that sit like with your own personal morals to what has to be done for paper?
Trying to think if I've been in that situation where someone's had a completely. I don't know. Say for example with BAFTA this year, right? So we did these pieces on BAFTA and what was going on with the nominations and the fact it was completely undiverse. And I think with reporting something like that, what I did was look at because there was this big outcry of like, why is this happening? Why is there nobody of colour being nominated for any of the acting awards? And the thing with the reporting there is just got to the facts. Like, why is this happening? Okay, well, what's their voting process? And then we looked into that and kind of dug into it, and we found out that, and this was out there, it's all public knowledge, it's not any kind of great reporting, but it's just something that people don't talk about a lot, that when it comes to the acting categories, they let their full voting body choose that. So that's like more than 6,000 people. Whereas with some of the other awards, there's smaller juries. So there's specialist juries in directors category or whatever. So that obviously has an impact. So we were talking to them about that and basically just report the facts and report their point of view. I might personally totally disagree with that. I think they should be doing far more to sort it out. But I can't really influence that. All I can do is put their point of view across and people can make up their own mind.
That's fair. What is your exact role again? Is it global and culture?
So I'm arts and culture correspondent. Yeah. So I work on the news desk. So my job is to report news around the world of arts and culture.
Fair. So then, in that sense, are you scouring like the internet as well, trying to find like new crazes as well? Are you trying to be, like that sort of Vice element where they want to be hot on the pulse? Have you got that side of you in there as well, or is it more people touring and more established acts?
No, definitely. I always try to find stuff that's kind of off the beaten path and that we might not have covered before. Because you can end up just talking to like the same five artists over and over again, which which is quite boring. So like, yeah, I have a kind of crazy RSS feed where those things like the kind of aggregators, and I'll just put in like loads of different websites. I don't know, it's like hundreds, and I just kind of scour that in the morning, see what people are up to, see what people are writing about, look at what trends people find are interesting, and like try to think, is there a story in that for us? Like, is there something that we could do at the Guardian where you've got a much bigger platform? Where we can take a subject that people are talking about and kind of blow it up and talk about it in an interesting, kind of more insightful way.
That's mad to like. It is mad to think, because obviously you've got so much scope to be able to see what you want to feature. Like it must be sick, because you're again always discovering new stuff. Like, have you ever discovered anyone that you've gone on to properly like buzz about and follow off?
It was good. I mean, I suppose when we were in America, we were really early on Atlanta. We were like, this is going to be massive. So we did like Brian Tyree Henry, interviewed the writers. I think we did Donald Glover. And that was pretty kind of satisfying to see something kind of blow up in a massive way. That was cool. Try to think of like people who I've discovered who were good. I mean, it's always a buzz like talking to people like Wolfgang Tillmans or someone who just you really respect as an artist or a person. And you talk to them and their sound, that really helps. But then, just like the way they think is just completely different to anyone else.
Like, but then that must proper like inspire you as well, by being around how those sort of people think, because you're absorbing like their creativity from those conversations. That's what I love about like what I see through a good journalist is when I read a great interview and I feel I've like been blessed by like the creative energy from the people that are putting it out there.
Yeah. No, definitely, man. You meet some people and it's just like, whoa, this person's different. This person's like on another level, and that's always good. But I always find like it kind of makes me question a little bit, like, what am I doing? Like, should I be doing something more like what they're doing? Because they're obviously kind of creating something and kind of doing something amazing with their time. And you think maybe I should be doing that, but it's not that easy. They're doing that because they've got this incredible talent and they've worked on it for years. Often, especially with like visual artists, people are so dismissive of them, and you talk to them and you ask them about their work, and they'll talk about it for hours because there's so much thinking that goes on behind it. And I think that's something that kind of gets missed sometimes.
The lady that I spoke with before, Laura Wellington, she's just put a comment in saying posters for the people. So that's a plug on something that she's done incredible in Leeds, and it's reached out to Manchester. But it's basically, when you go, imagine if you're in a city and you see like the wall barrels or the billboards advertising different stuff. A lot of them, usually it's clubbing posters. They've done really bright and colourful thank you messages to the front. They've been able to present it so lift the spirits of people who are actually going to work and see it as well. But now what they've also done is they've opened it up so people can have like a bit of it in their garden as well. So literally just colouring up the streets and looking to liven up the streets through the doom and gloom of the present time to lift the spirits of the frontline workers. So I mean, I'll definitely be passing some of her stuff over because she's a cool person, and it's a really cool project actually what she's been on with.
Yeah, that sounds really good. I think anything like that where, like, who did I talk to the other day? Yeah, Wolfgang Tillmans, right? He started this thing where he teamed up with different venues around Berlin primarily because that's where he's based, and you can buy these posters, so exclusive works by artists like him, Mark Leckie, loads of different people. He can print them out, sends them to the clubs, and then they manage to keep all the money that comes in, the full sponsorship. And I think that kind of creativity at the moment is amazing. It's good to see, and like what Laura's doing, that's sick. Like we need more people doing stuff like that, basically. And I think that shows you how kind of the arts and culture can be really kind of effective, because people are scared, man. Like, I talk to people all the time for my job, and they're worried about what they're going to do because the arts culture is so fragile right now, and they don't have much funding anyway from the Arts Council, or maybe they don't even have Arts Council funding, and they're just kind of struggling to kind of keep it together. So yeah, anything like that is always good.
It's true. It's a lot of people don't see it about the funding, and one of the places that were nearly going to go under was the National Photography Museum. In
Right.
Bradford.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
literally, like it was gonna be done because they felt because. Do you see this? You're now live in London. Do you feel like a lot of the art scene is quite London centric when you think of the museums? But they were trying to even take the photography museum and take that down to London. It's like, give us something.
Yeah, I mean, I feel super strongly about that. Like, I remember when they took the part of the photography collection to the V&A. I don't know if you've ever been to V&A, but like, it's got enough stuff in it. It's got more than enough stuff in it. And what they should have done is taken the time to invest in the. Is it called it's not called Photography Museum now, is it?
Not
It's the
science
it's the
museum in
science.
it.
It's part of the
They
science
had
group.
to change it to fit with a different funding
Yeah,
package.
yeah. They're part of that. They're part of the science group, which is they're an interesting bunch. But I mean, I remember growing up there and going to like. I was thinking the other day, like going to screenings and stuff. I got to see Raging Bull when they did a 35mm screening of it. It was like £3 in. I used to go there every week, and like some of the stuff I saw, I don't know if I'd be a journalist today, like covering the arts, if I wouldn't have gone to that museum because it was just like a free education on film. And why should someone from Bradford be deprived of that? Because you're in Bradford, like it's the 8th biggest city in the world, in the world, in the UK. It's got a huge population. It's got amazing history, and it's got people who deserve that culture. Why should you have to go to London to see that? It's ridiculous. So yeah, I'm a massive proponent for like sharing the kind of funding, which is massively London centric. If you think of National Theatre, that gets I think about 66 million quid from the Arts Council every 3 years, and somewhere like Leeds Playhouse gets like 16. I mean, there should be an argument that you don't even need National Theatre to be in London. Why can't it be in Leeds? Why can't it be in Bradford? Why can't it be somewhere else? And you make the effort. People would still go. So yeah, anyway, I'm a proper Bradfordian, like proper Yorkshire guy, like yeah, keep it real. But I think there's a massive argument for it, and I think in London sometimes when you're down here, you're so spoilt for choice, It's ridiculous. Like last year, when I got the job, I was like, I wasn't got enough to see enough theatre. I wasn't going out as much as I should have been. So I decided, right, I'm going to go out and try to see something, say at least one thing a month. And I was just spoilt for choice. It's world class stuff. Every night you can go and see it, and it's not going to cost you the earth either. Whereas in Bradford, like there are amazing people doing it, but they're struggling and they just need a bit of that funding. It shouldn't be that difficult.
Especially when the common goal should be to celebrate the best art, not just the best art, put it in this place. We should be celebrating regional voices. We should be celebrating the individual tales from different areas and pockets of society. That is for me, not just in the arts, but I see it as city centres as well becoming clones. A lot of city centres are losing that identity, really.
Yeah, I mean, Bradford's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I think Bradford City Centre is like potentially amazing. It's got loads better. Like I remember, like 15 years ago, whatever, when there was that massive hall in the city centre.
Just a massive hall, mate.
Yeah, but there was still loads of good stuff going on. Like Eleanor Barrett, who runs Brickbox, she was at the Bradford Playhouse, and she used to let us put like nights on. And it was mad. They used to have like mad kind of performance art, and then we put a night on and put like a punk band on, and then we'd be DJing after and playing all kinds of stuff. And there's always that kind of energy there where it was just like, yeah, the city's mashed, but we're going to do whatever we want, and like it's super cheap, and we can do whatever we want with it. And you've always got like Little Germany, which is incredible. Like the architecture is unbelievable. Like North Parade now I went out there a couple of years ago with my wife, and she's from Spain, and she was like, "What? This is amazing!" She couldn't believe it.
It's got so much potential. It's got so much potential, that city. It really does. It really, really does. And again, I think going back to how I see the spirit of Bradford is like, it's like if people say they're going to do it, there's a support there, but it's like, go on, you said you're going to do it, so do it. And I just think it gives a different backbone so you actually do stuff other than just saying you're going to do it and never materialising it.
Yeah, totally. And I think Bradford can learn a few lessons from cities like Liverpool, which are a bit more like, we aren't bothered what you think. Like we're just gonna do us. If it don't matter if we get like loads of articles written about Bradford being like it's the most improved city. I actually think that's kind of potentially a bit of a negative thing. Just if Bradford just getting on and doing its own thing, it won't matter. It'll grow and it'll become like sustainable and have its own little ecosystem, and it won't be influenced by like getting money from London.
Nah,
Although,
you're right. You're right, but it does need that support. But I'm glad you're still fighting the cause while you're down there as well, man. I respect that. How do you say with these bigger acts? Do you reach out to them, or is it very cyclical to if they're touring or if they've got material out? Like, how does it work with you approaching people?
yeah, so I mean, it's about ultimately it's a business. So if people are promoting stuff, they'll be put forward usually by PRs and stuff. If you know someone's got a big album out, say like I don't know Taylor Swift or whatever, not one of my favorites, but like say she's got a big album out, you're gonna put in for her. Like you put a bid in and you'll say like we want to do Taylor Swift. It'll be on Weekend Magazine. It'll be this and this. This is when we'd run it. This would be the package or whatever. And you try to get that because everybody would want to get her. What I find more interesting is like where you spot something and they might not even be PR'd and you're like, I'm going to go after this. Like, I was having a conversation with someone at work about Bad Boy Chiller Crew. Do you know those
Yeah,
guys?
mate. So do you know what's so funny is when I were on about the up and coming stuff, I was going to mention them to you. Like, if you see quirky stuff on internet.
Yeah, I love those guys. And like, I was talking to someone at work about them and I was like, we should do Bad Boy Chiller Crew. And I think they've got a manager and stuff. And they're massive. I mean, they're massive in Bradford, obviously. They're big on the internet. But that's the kind of thing that I get excited about where it's like something new. It's not being manufactured. It's these guys, and it's super Bradford. Like that
Yeah.
cannot exist anywhere else other than Bradford. Like from the terminology, the sound, you know what I mean? Like it's just Bradford in a sound. It's amazing. It's absolutely incredible. So I love those guys and like MC Fraz and MC Mulgrip. Like yeah,
Yeah.
really
That's
great.
mad. That's mad you mentioned them because I was going to say them. I think it's true. So you do have the luxury of like spotting up and coming as well. Because obviously, the end of the day, like you've got to still think that the product that you're putting out, it's one of the biggest like papers ever to exist. Like it's one of the what is the a big five they call them or something like that. So you've still got to see it have a home there as well. So sometimes are you putting your neck on the line? Say like with a Bad Boys Chiller Crew, where you get it and you know so many people get it, but you've still got to sell that to the people to say that it should be featured.
Yeah, it's got to be a consideration, and you've got to think it is. You know, you're in a mainstream paper. It's one of the big nationals. You've got a huge online audience. You can do what you want with that up until a point, but if you're going to put someone on the cover, say a Film of Music or The Guide or Weekend or whatever, you're making a statement with that.
Yeah.
And that on a Saturday, you're putting someone on the cover of The Guide. That's to help sell the paper ultimately. It's a supplement within it, but you are also helping to sell it. So you're going to be accountable. If you consistently just put Bad Boy Chiller Crew on the cover, I don't think you could put Bad Boy Chiller Crew on it. I'd love to see it, but I don't know if you could at this point. It'd be we call it an inside feature. I think you get away with that definitely because they've got an album out and stuff, but like they're not on a label. I'd make the argument that makes them more exciting, and I think you could do like a smaller feature on them now, and you could do a feature on like just Bradford, what's going on at the minute, like with Blazer Buckle.
Yeah.
What's he thinking about? Yeah, Bad Boy Chiller Crew, MC Fraz, Mulgrip. There's those guys, Chava Division. Have you heard that?
No, no.
So there's a guy called Marky B who I did a bit of internet sleuthing, and I think he's mates with like Bad Boy Chiller Crew. I don't know if we went to school or something together because they're all from Swain House, I think. But yeah, like I'd make the argument you could sell that as a little package of like this is what's going on in Bradford now, and arguably it's one of the most interesting places because some of them are sick. Like I genuinely think some of the tunes are like unbelievable. Some of them are pretty bad, but like that 450 that track? It's just brilliant. It's absolutely fantastic. The hook is sick. Every verse bangs. It's just like, yeah, you've done it. You've created a great song. Well done.
Well, the thing is, when you name some of them as well, so like my brother's an MC, he's called Raps, and he's part of Blazer's crew. So like, there's a proper team of them coming through, and I spoke with James Guy from King of the Hills, which is like the up north SBTV.
Yeah, yeah,
so
really
do you know what I mean? So there is a proper thing where like that's such a sick idea. I mean, if something was like to come to fruition where you know you did say Bradford, do you think it'd have legs where you could do like different regional areas as well? Because as we're saying, you need like some areas just need that light, even if it's like a couple of words, that confidence or like the smoke that it'll give them to be like, yo, like I've been featured to push them on again. Like it could be playing such a huge part in the creatives.
Yeah, it's true. Like we did a thing, and it was like up and coming acts for 2020. And I was talking to the music editor Ben Beaumont Thomas, and I was like, "Oh yeah, Bad Boy Chiller Crew, well good. You should put them in." And he did, and then it ended up TNA picked it up and stuff, and they were like, "Oh, Bradford rap group is in the Guardian," and it was like that. That just helps. Yeah, it just gives people a leg up, and it gives people confidence. Although for those guys, they've got thousands of followers. It's mental. Social media's totally
Millions.
changed it. Yeah, yeah,
Millions. Like their watch per day is over 1 million.
yeah, yeah. MC Clive just absolutely rinsing it. It's mad. It's madness. But yeah,
But even if you look at it that way, it's like the TNA wouldn't have shone a light on him until you vouched for him, which made the TNA give that light for him.
well, what did they do? I was reading the TNA the other day. They did a thing on Blazer Bockel. They did a video, didn't he? And he was in a
In
school.
the school, yeah.
That's the kind of thing they're like, oh, Bradford rapper smokes a joint in school. It's like, has he though? I don't think he
It was
really.
a massive fake one as well, wasn't it?
Come on, mate, get real. It's not a 10-sheeter, is it? That's just ridiculous. Yeah, yeah, it is a bit of a weird cyclical thing. I like the TNA, but I remember once we did. Do you remember they had that show called Make Bradford British?
Oh yeah.
So I got asked to write about that, and I did like kind of scathing review. I thought the whole thing was ridiculous, and they were like, "Oh, the national papers have got out there, Bradford writers." So I do like TNA, but sometimes they're very like, parochial or whatever. Sorry, ciao TNA.
No, I respect it, mate. I think like we should be supporting what's going on in the city. I think it's too easy. Whenever I'm on I always have to give a shout out to my favourite bus, the 508, right? Whenever I'm on the 508, it goes past a couple of shops that have, outside they have like the headline bit in like a plaque on the wall.
Yeah.
And it's always doom and gloom. It's all, it's
Yeah.
And it would just be sick if it would just get behind the city, get behind. And I think if we could do that with the different other pockets, different areas, you could even like Halifax, even Oldham, like Middlesbrough, like all these like remote northern areas. Because if you look at, I'd say the biggest influence on the planet at the moment is hip hop culture, right? I think that has it's everywhere, from film, TV, obviously music, art. I mean, without hip hop culture, would Obama have been elected? With the fact that Jay-Z's vouching and X, Y, Z. But you think of how hip hop was born, and it was like out of oppression. It was out of oppression. You think of other music like disco or punk. So these areas that have been oppressed, these people have got the most to say because they're not getting a look in, and they've got so much to express. So I just wonder if there's something to tap in and see what they've got.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I always think of like the difference between the coverage that grime gets and the coverage that baseline got. Because I remember when baseline was really kicking off, when like T2 was number one, TS7, T-Dot, loads of Bradford people were doing stuff. And I was in the city then. I was like, this is a thing. I just started writing. I was like, this is a thing. I'm going to kind of make it my thing and do something. And like, it was hard to get anyone to pay any interest whatsoever. Like, people are not bothered about it. And I think it's because grime is E3. Like, I live in Mile End. It's just Roman Road's just over there. So like, that's where it all started. It was something that London writers could write about, get it into nationals, and it was kind of respected. Whereas baseline was just seen as like, what are these northern idiots doing? Like, they're all taking pingers and flying about and stabbing each other. Like, they're just morons or whatever. And the music wasn't respected. Whereas I think, like, I don't know if Simon Reynolds would have wrote a big piece about how baseline came from Speed Garage and that came from techno and all these different things. Like, I was thinking the other day, I've kind of started writing it. I was going to write this kind of like academic thing about where Bad Boy Chiller Crew's sound comes from, because I think you can make an argument that it actually comes from, like, do you know Unique 3? Have you ever heard of them?
No.
Oh man, they're amazing Bradford group, right? From the like late 80s, early 90s. They were signed to Warp. They're one of the first singles that came out on Warp, and they did this like bass and bleep sound. It's incredible. But they're like Bradford guys, and they rap over like techno basically. And that bassline sound, I think you can totally chart that trajectory from those guys to what like MC Fraz and them lot do. It's a little bit of a stretch, but it's not that big. And they're amazing. Yeah, Unique 3, man. You've got to listen to them. They're absolutely unbelievable.
I love that though, but that's what it's about, innit? It's unearthing the history of stuff that give people a bit more knowledge about it and like letting them know a bit more clued up, and also giving validation to a scene that wrongly or rightly, depending on taste, has been like suppressed.
Yeah, or just completely ignored. That's the thing. Like, and I think that's one thing with maybe Bradford and some other cities, that Bradford's got an amazing musical history, but people don't know about it. people don't know about it. Like, I remember finding out this band called Disaster, and they used to play down at 1 in 12, and they were part of this disband scene, which was like 80s, like anti-Thatcher, anti-nuclear war, like proper fast, hard punk. And they've got an album called War Cry, and it's just like, what is this, man? It's like Napalm Death or something, and they're from Halifax and Bradford. It's like, why do I not know about this? This is the kind I only want to listen to this now, but I didn't know anything about it because sometimes I think Bradford's pretty bad at like promoting itself. Whereas like you got Manchester, you just got it rammed down your throat every 2 minutes, like rah, rah, rah. Liverpool, same thing. Like New York, exactly the same. Obviously, the huge cities, but like Bradford's pretty big and it's musically really diverse. I hope when they do that City Culture 2025 that they do something on the musical history of Bradford, because you could do an amazing like series of concerts at 1 in 12 or maybe St George's Hall and like get some of these guys back and do like get Unique free to play and like bring Warp on and do talks and like actually build it up and talk about what the whole thing's about, because it's amazing like what those guys were doing. It's incredible.
Would you, the passion you spoke about that then, like it seems like you're the man for that job. Like, would you ever consider taking anything on like that that's external to what you do?
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm talking to someone actually about what those guys are doing it for 2025 and that bid at the minute, and I might write a piece about it. But like, yeah, I'd definitely be up for it. It's just making the time, and obviously got to get that money. Got the money now, exactly. I'll do it for free. Definitely love Bradford.
No, mate. Honestly, I can definitely see that. And I was speaking with Nath Clark, so he's the main man behind Brudenell Social Club.
Yeah, great venue.
He was echoing similar to what you were saying that the Leeds music scene, it's overlooked. There's so much history in it that people don't even realise or know about. And I was pushing for him to write a book about the Brood. And he was like, before there was a book about the Brood, it would sit right with him if there was a book about Leeds and the Leeds music scene as well. So you've got Leeds going for 2023. You've got Bradford going for 2025. You could have your little 2-year like break and build up to him.
Nah, man, don't want Leeds. Leeds can get lost. Seriously, Leeds can get lost, man. They've had enough shine. They're the whole New Yorkshire thing, so just like getting about. But now I'm only joking. I love going out in Leeds. It's class. Brudenell's amazing. Yeah. I suppose that's part of what it's like the ecosystem of a scene that kind of makes it sustainable and like makes something that sticks in the mind. That's why like books are so important. There's a new one out at the minute by a guy called Matt Annis, and that's about bleep and bass and that whole sound, and that's incredible. And that's like 300 pages, and it's all about Sheffield, Leeds, Bradford, Manchester in the late 80s, early 90s, and these guys were just doing mad stuff on little samplers and like, yeah, it's incredible. Sorry, Laura, but yeah, Leeds, get lost.
That's it. For me, the sort of final questions would be then like, when you're sort of covering your research, how do you go through your research? Do you have a particular process to it?
I wish I did. It'd probably make it a lot easier. I think what I try to do is, say if I'm interviewing someone, I have a pretty set process for that. So I will go through and try to read every interview that they've done, like every big interview that they've done, and some of the smaller ones as well. I'll go through YouTube, I'll look back at old interviews. And what you're trying to do there is like find out something that maybe they said like 20 years ago or 35 years ago, whatever, if they're getting on a bit, and talk to them about that, because that's when things can really open up, and that's when you get the kind of gold. If you're talking to someone about something they've said 15, 20 times in the last year, you can totally tell, and it's dead, and it's not what you want to do. So I always try to go in with like 5 or 6 like main points where I'm like, I need to hit this. These are the things I've got to hit, and then maybe 5 or 6 other ones which are kind of nice to have. If I'm doing a big profile, that's like 2,000 words or whatever. So sometimes, say for example, Erykah Badu, I interviewed her, and it was obvious I needed to ask her about the comment she made about Hitler. And do you remember that when she was interviewed by New York Mag, and she was like, I'd forgive Hitler or whatever. And, it totally blew up. And the point she was making was like, she forgive absolutely everybody. And it was slightly like, some people really had a problem with it. But I think the sentiment was kind of right. I don't know. Anyway, so I knew I was going to talk to her about that. So I wanted to hit that, and then maybe like I had 5 or 6 other things. And I just went back and spoke to her about her career, and she was just absolutely unbelievable, man. Like, what a human being. She's on another level. Did
you have to pre-prep her that you were going to ask that question? Or did you just go in with it?
Just went in. Like, it's interesting because when you go in to talk to someone and you've got like one thing that's like potentially going to blow up, you've got to kind of really think about when you want to do it. Probably don't want to do it right at the beginning, but you don't want to do it at the end. You want to do it about halfway through. When you've got enough, you know that you're not going to stuff it up. You've got enough. If they walk out, it's fine. And then you drop it in there. But I mean, it can be intimidating, man. But that's what you get paid for. That's why you get paid the big bucks.
And then, so when you are working, like, you know, you've just named like her and Jill Scott's thing the other day was unbelievable. Their verses.
Yeah, I've not seen it yet, but yeah, I can't wait.
It was nuts. It was nuts. But yeah, I wonder, you know, do you have a set time where you're going to be speaking with them? Is that all that's done with the PR, where it's all pre-arranged, or are you able to just go, oh, do you want to go for a coffee, and you're just there like nattering away, or is it quite set?
It depends what the setup is. It'll all be preordained before. With someone like Erica Badu, I suppose I did it on the phone, so it's not ideal. You want to do it face to face because it's always better. Yeah, I mean, usually, my experience, the vast majority of the time, you're going to get between 45 minutes and an hour with someone like that. If it's going to be a cover feature, that's the minimum that you're going to want. And in that time, you've got to just kind of make it work. Like, it's very rare. I'm not somebody who likes to kind of pal around with the people I'm interviewing. Like, I think especially if I'm talking about something serious and that, you don't want to get into a situation where you're getting too friendly with them. And I know some people, like, especially in the UK, journalists, it's like their brand is the fact that they can hang out with these people and like they go to wherever China Whites or something. But I just think I don't really want to do that. Like, I won't think of anything worse than hanging out with a lot of celebrities in like some terrible West End bar. Like, I just want to have that separation, do my job, go back and kind of quite kind of coolly just write about what is really interesting, and not be influenced about whether I think they're going to be my mate later. So yeah, I kind of try to keep that level of separation. But yeah, it's funny, man. Some of the people I've interviewed. I interviewed Spike Lee once, and he's somebody who's like a massive hero of mine, and I'd met him about 6 months before I interviewed him, because I was getting a flight to Los Angeles, and he was flying from New York, and we're on the same like little bit in the airport. So we walked through, and we go through the security bit, and he kind of got ushered through ahead of me. And a few people. It was really early in the morning. There was hardly anyone on his flight. And a few people were like, oh, who's that? Who's that? I was like, oh, I think it's Spike Lee. And I ended up going through like at the same time as him. But I didn't really realise because I was pretty dazed. And I sat down, I'd take my trainers off and I put them back on and I was tying them. And I looked up and he just sat opposite me and I was like, whoa. I think he was like smiling and like, because I was probably like, whoa, I can't believe this. And he was like, oh, what's good? And like shook his hand and stuff. And we were like smiling and smiling. And then I just went, Malcolm X changed my life. And he was like, got up and just walked out, and he was like, he legged it. And then I interviewed about 6 months later, and he didn't remember me. But at the end of the interview, I kind of mentioned it, and he was like, yeah, I get that a lot, and I just can't be bothered with it. So like, he didn't want to hear like, oh, Malcolm X changed my life. He just wants to go and, you know, get a quesadilla or whatever.
That's an interesting look at it. As soon as like we were up for a chill, but as soon as it came to that point, because I suppose this is going to be like one of my latter ones, is like, can you gauge when they're uninfused? That, you know, you're interviewing because they've just been asked the same questions so many times. Yeah,
totally. And you can kind of, if you've done your research, you'll avoid that anyway. But sometimes you'll stumble into that trap of doing it. And yeah, I remember. I suppose it depends as well if they're really up for the interview. Like I remember interviewing someone who's quite big. You know, I won't name him because the interview didn't run, but because it was that bad. But they'd just been like, this person had just been smoking weed and drinking all day basically, and like the PR hadn't done the job of keeping them like focused on that, and they were just giving like one word answers, and it was like a bit of a nightmare. And you're just like, oh man, that thankfully hasn't happened that many times. You can always like salvage something out of it, even if it's doing a job on them and saying like, this is what they were like, or you know, there's enough there to kind of make it decent. But yeah, I find it because I interview a lot of rappers and that, or I used to, and like they just can't be bothered, man. They don't want to do the press. They don't care about the UK. They don't care about the Guardian. They don't know what it is, and you have to kind of get them on board, man. I remember the first big thing I did was going out to interview 2 Chainz, and they sent me out to interview 2 Chainz, and the idea was you hang out with 2 Chainz for 2 days, right? You go to first night, go see him play a gig in Sacramento. He's on a tour with Lil Wayne and T.I. Hang out with him, and then you go down to San Diego. Oh, there's a way around. Anyway,
you've got to rattle this off in 20 seconds.
20 seconds, right? So I can't do it, mate. It's too good. The story's too good. It's not possible in 20 seconds. It's too amazing.
You know what, right? I tell you what we'll do is we'll get another video after of you just telling the story, and you'll be the first ever bonus done on Loose Lips. But what a sick guy. Thank you for your chat, brother.
No worries.
Take it easy. Bye.
All right, nice one.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.